Hey guys, I just wanted to put out a quick correction about Oscar's nursery. While he does specialize in selling rare fruit seeds by mail, he does also have a nursery, but he only sells the very rare plants not easily available and only has custom orders. So if you're interested, you can email him about it at fruitlovers@gmail.com. Thanks! So I want to talk about, this is one of my favorite trees because I come visit it a lot.
The cinnamon?
Oscar has a cinnamon tree. I dig up the keikis and sell them at the market. So I've spent a lot of time at your tree. And I get asked a lot, like, what are the best tips for harvesting your cinnamon and how soon can you harvest it?
Okay, this is all going to be theoretical because I honestly haven't done it. But actually what you want to do is cut the main trunk, and then you're going to get new sprouts because you want to take the bark off new stuff about this size or smaller. This size is better.
Okay.
So you
about
cut,
2 inches
you cut a big
diameter?
trunk, and then it's going to sprout out. And then when you get a sprout about this size, then you cut down this way and this way and peel the bark off and let it dry. And that's the stuff that you use the cinnamon.
Oh, so you don't harvest the whole branch and then just peel off all the bark?
No, it's just the bark, and you can even go up. You can leave the branch. It's not going to kill the branch. You can do it in parts. You just go up and harvest whatever you need.
And you just make sure you don't ring it? Like you only do sections?
You ring it, but not real deep. You're just taking the outside layer. Different than doing the air layer where you're going much deeper to the cambium layer.
Oh.
You're just doing the surface. And the other thing that's super easy for lazy people like myself is just using the leaves. The leaves are really good. Oh. You crunch them up, put them in water, and you got cinnamon tea. And yeah, it is like cinnamon. It's really good. It's super easy. Yeah, if you're going to cut this anyway, you can strip all this stuff on and use it. Because
I feel like that's how I would more likely use it, is just when I'm pruning the tree, like take down a branch that is not necessarily serving and take that down. And then like it will.
I'm talking about commercial. For commercial use, that's how they do it. Yeah, they keep topping it. And then, because this way you can get bigger quantities. What you're doing is for small quantities for home use. It's okay.
Okay, got it.
It seems like it likes a little bit of shade. Is that correct?
They have one at the Arboretum there on Kilauea Avenue. It's in full sun, and it's okay. Full sun or partial shade. It
has a lot of dead leaves, actually. It doesn't necessarily look... Yours looks much happier, I would say, than that one.
Yeah. Well, it was getting full sun until this V apple kind of started shading it out, and it's still okay. And at first, they're slow at first.
Right.
Speaking of slow, I have to warn people, this is different than another look-alike plant with cassia, and it's related to cinnamon. This is called true cinnamon.
Right.
Cinnamomum verum, and the cassia is Cinnamomum cassia. Now the cassia is actually an invasive weed.
Yeah, and it's really toxic,
it grows super fast. It'll go like 5 times as fast, and it's used as an adulterant to cinnamon and commercial plantations, but it's not as good tasting.
Yeah, isn't it a little toxic too? I'm not really.
Yeah, if you do it in large quantity, it can be. It has some kind of toxin in it. But they put like 5 or 10% or whatever to adulterate it and just be able to sell more.
Yep.
I just want to warn people not to plant that one because it's an invasive and it can take over.
Yeah, I had used you to ID our first cinnamon trees and make sure they were true cinnamon. So yeah, when you see and people have asked me that at the market before, what do you mean by true cinnamon? And
you can tell easily from the leaf, because the true cinnamon, the verum has a much wider leaf, bigger, and the cassia is very thin, narrow leaf. And also on this one, on the true cinnamon, the new growth is red. The cassia doesn't have that.
Oh, okay.
So this is kind of a nicer, more ornamental plant than the cassia. Camphor is another one related. It's also can be invasive. So watch out for that one too.
So, and this is your V apple we're standing under.
This is a V apple rescue from the Calabana eruption in 1990. I was helping a friend to move out. And I figured this tree is going to get wiped out. Well, that wasn't the tree. I mean, the whole area got wiped out.
Right.
So I moved the cake over here, and that's one of the survivors. That turned out pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful tree. It kind of has a foliage kind of like a walnut.
No.
I mean, the thing that we were always
Opposite compound leaves.
Yeah, maybe the shape of the leaf. It doesn't have the smell of walnut house. Yeah.
the thing we were always struck by when we worked here was, I mean, we worked here for Oscar for like 6 months, and it was fruiting the entire time that we worked for Oscar. It's a very heavy, long fruiter. Yeah.
I can't use them all. People that like to pickle them, that's the way to go, because it makes so much fruit. Tons and tons of fruit.
And this is you think this is a female and it's a dioecious species? You've mentioned that you can't get the seeds to sprout.
One tree will fruit, but yeah, there might be male and female, and that's why some that are lone trees don't have seeds inside. What you see in the middle, that spiky thing, is not really the seed, it's the pod. Sure. But if you open that pod, you'll see that it's empty. Mm-hmm. Inside there's no seeds. So trees like this, you have to start them from cuttings.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
When there's a lot of trees around, you're going to have seeds inside that spiky pod, and you can start them from seed. But anyway, cutting is faster and easier.
So you don't need to air layer it, it'll grow just from a cutting?
It's easier from an air layer. Cuttings are a little bit more difficult to get them to root. So you just put in a lot of cuttings, you probably will get some to root.
Is that how you got this one?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Nice.
Yep. And is this your Cupuacu back here? Or is that a regular cacao or Cupuacu?
This is Cupuacu. Both of those are Cupuacus. Okay. They flower and flower, but don't fruit. I think there's some kind of self-sterility. So I need to introduce other Cupuacus from other plants to try to get pollination. This has been a real frustrating one, because they flower every year and not a single one sets. You can see flowers up there, see? It's flowering right now.
And what is the major pollinator for cacao here?
These little tiny midgets, some little small insects. This is the Lacucha.
Yeah, it's like, what is this fruit?
Lacucha.
Like, what is this fruit?
This is a type of Artocarpus, another relative of the Ulu breadfruit from India.
Oh, I was just asking you about.
You were just asking me, and I told you it's starting to fruit, and look, see, there's fruits up there.
Awesome. And this is a sour fruit, correct?
It's sweet sour. Yeah, it's sweet with a little bit of tartness. The problem with this fruit is you got to get it at just the right stage, and the right stage is like only 1 day. It gets soft really fast. It's hard to get it at its prime stage. It doesn't keep at all. This and Kwai Muk also are very perishable fruits, but the Kwai Muk is not quite as perishable. It'll keep a few days. There's a Kwai Muk tree right over there.
So the Kwai Muk has flowered or not?
No, it's not flowering right now. I have one that's flowering, fruiting right now in Maku'u, but this one isn't.
So these two are Lacucha?
No.
Or what's this one?
This one is Lacucha. This is Marang, and behind it is Kwai Muk.
Oh, I didn't.
These are all Artocarpus. This is my Artocarpus area. So when I was planning, I try to keep the genuses together. So I have the Artocarpus section, and have the herb section and the lychee section.
Yeah.
Saying that the Kwai Muk has very normal looking leaves. And
normal looking seeds?
Leaves.
Leaves.
Yeah. Very different than the large Artocarpus standard.
Yeah. It's a small fruit, and the leaves are small and not lobed like most Artocarpus. It's very unusual for Artocarpus. And also they're much more cold tolerant. They're not as tropical.
Really?
They can be grown in cooler areas. So
and
you could probably grow it up high. You don't have to be right at sea level. Sure. This is a very rare fruit.
Yeah.
This is called Sacha Mango. And it's a fruit from Peru. We had a speaker here one time from Peru for the Tropical Fruit Growers Association, and he really recommended this fruit. And then when I went out to try to get it, I was like, oh my God, it was totally unavailable. I mean, this is a really rare thing here in the United States.
Is it related to guava?
These are the flowers.
See.
Is this what you planted a bunch of in your back field?
Yeah.
I thought it looked familiar.
And over there, they're not doing so good because they're very wind sensitive, I found out. Here, they're doing a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
This took the longest time. This thing has got to be 15, 20 years old. I'd almost given up on it ever fruited.
Wow.
And it finally fruited. Now I have another one here, and it didn't fruit. It's the same age and everything. It hasn't fruited yet.
So it's grown a foot a year, you're telling me?
No, it didn't grow that slow. It's just it was tall and high, and it just never would flower. I didn't know what to do to get it to flower, and it finally just flowered on its own. But I've seen ones in the Rio de Janeiro Botanical Garden that were 8 feet tall only, and they were just, the whole trunk is covered in fruit. Just like a papaya.
Yeah.
This is very sparse fruiting.
I bet if you topped it, it would fruit more heavily.
Yeah, maybe. I could try it with that one.
Well, you know, we're always willing to help you prune.
Yeah. I haven't tasted it yet, but it has a very unusual taste. The texture is hard, kind of like a carrot, crunchy, and the taste is like a walnut. So if you can imagine a carrot, it has a walnut taste. It has a very big seed inside, and so you have to peel this and cut away the outside layer.
Mm-hmm.
There's a YouTube video from a guy in Peru that describes it.
Well,
do you know, does it have a high fat protein content like a nut, or does it just taste?
I don't know, but I would think so because it tastes like walnuts. So yeah, I think it probably has some oils.
Okay.
That's why it has that taste.
And well, here's one of our favorite fruits, our favorite rare fruits specifically. You introduced us. This might have been the first rare fruit that you introduced us to.
This one here, the Pulasan or the Achacha.
The Pulasan. Actually, I don't know which one was first. Yeah.
I think both have kind of become our favorite.
This right here is Pulasan, and to the right of it is Achacha, which I'm calling Bolivian Mangosteen. People have an easier time remembering, associating that's from. And it is a relative of the mangosteen from South America. It's very good. There's a lot of fruits on it. I picked most of them already, but you can still see some in there. I've been selling these to the whole island naturals.
So you said you got more than 100 pounds this year, correct?
Oh yeah, this tree had, I don't know exactly, but I would estimate, and I tend to be kind of conservative with my estimates, between 300 and 400 pounds on it.
That's really impressive because it's only 15, 20 feet tall.
No, it's really disappointing because I heard they got 1,000, and I feel cheated. I'm like 600 pounds short now.
You're just getting started.
I'm just getting started. Yeah, that's just a joke. This is a teenager tree. It's only like about 15 years old. As it gets bigger, it's going to have a lot more fruit on it.
Sure.
We're talking at the market. Oscar brought us some Achachas. He's our local seed dealer. Brought us the goods, and we were talking about how we loved the Achacha and that, you know, they're just so shelf stable and they last for a long time and the fruit puts on really well.
Mm-hmm.
And versus like a purple mangosteen, you pick it and, you know, I had just gotten a bunch for seeds last week, and over half of them, even with my eye of like, you know, which is better than most of how to pick good fruit, I still had 3 of them that were rotten and they looked perfectly fine on the outside. So it's always like the thing about purple mangosteen that makes me crazy is like you never know you're getting a good one, versus the Achacha is easily our favorite because you can always tell and it lasts forever.
This tree has everything going for it. The only minus side is that that seed is big, so the pulp to seed ratio is not the greatest. Sure. In fact, I calculated and it's about 2/3 seed and skin, and so only about 1/3 of it is edible.
Sure.
But
compared to
like mangosteen,
purple
where hardly
mangosteen, yeah.
ever have any seeds, and when they have a seed, it's a really tiny little thing.
Sure.
But the rind is massive on it.
The rind is like 47%.
Oscar actually went through and calculated the percentage of waste between an Achacha and a purple mangosteen, and that is the kind of tangent that I can get behind. Like,
yeah, I do nerdy stuff like that for a living. But then you can really compare fruits, and when people put it down, this one guy on Facebook said, this thing here is like 80% seed. And I said, that's actually wrong. How do I know that?
it was 60%,
Because I've actually calculated
right?
it, and you haven't. You're just pulling numbers out of your hat.
So you said this was 60% waste and a purple mangosteen was 47%. Okay.
Yep.
And for the likelihood of you buying a bad purple mangosteen compared to an Achacha, I mean, this is the Achacha's getting really popular on the market, and I think that is with reason. It's an awesome fruit. You guys
and if we're comparing the two, it also has more cold tolerance because it's from Bolivia, which is a high altitude, so it can grow up country better. Yeah, and it fruits much more precociously than purple mangosteen.
It's more widely adapted. It fruits faster, and you don't get the problematic resin inside, that yellow resin that the purple mangosteen has inside that makes it almost inedible a lot of times.
Yeah. So purple mangosteen is one of the weirdest fruits ever. I mean, the fact that the seeds can be cut into pieces and still germinate.
Right, because a seed is not really a seed.
Sure.
Botanically, it's actually part of the mother plant. So it's like taking a cutting. It doesn't produce seeds because that seed inside, the thing we're calling seed, is produced asexually. Sure. All the mangosteen trees are females. Yeah. They've done away with males. They're not getting pollinated, but they're still producing a fruit, and they're still producing a part that can be propagated, but this is asexual reproduction.
Kind of like a polyembryonic mango, but maybe a different mechanism.
Yeah, it's a different mechanism.
So maybe that's why it's the queen of fruits, because they're all queens. There's no
males. No, I believe this is because humans have altered this plant. We don't know exactly how or why. There's a lot of different theories about that. This plant has been altered a really long time ago to be able to produce fruit without pollination.
So, and maybe it's a hybrid of the Garcinia, what is it, Malacensis or something?
Yeah, it could be some hybrid. It could be like, I would compare it to seedless ulu, where like Polynesians selected for a long time.
Sure, or bananas.
Or bananas for a type that's seedless.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
that would explain the pathogen problem. If it's not producing different genetics, then a pathogen is more likely to be able to attack that species.
Right. It's not biologically diverse because of that.
But you said there's a few cultivars.
There's a few tribes. They're not really cultivars. They're tribes developed in different areas that are different kind of fruit. Like there's one called a mesta, which is elongated fruit.
Okay.
But the genetics is very similar, if not identical.
Sure. So probably spontaneous mutant.
Yeah. Spontaneous adaptations depending on the different climates and soils and things like that. Plants turn out different.
Sure.
Even when their genetics are the same.
Sure.
Just like twin brothers or sisters brought up in different areas, different families, they're going to turn out different.
Sure.
Even though they're genetically identical.
Well, here's a rabbit hole. Do plants show epigenetic? Do the plants use epigenetics like animals, where certain environmental stressors, specific ones might, or pathogens, maybe the immunological information might be passed down to the offspring? You think that's possible?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and this is how nature adapts, and this is why nature is so diverse and complex. So they can adapt to almost infinite different combinations of climates and situations. No matter what happens, something will survive. Maybe even a nuclear holocaust, plants and animals, some will survive it. Not all of them are going to get fried by it, because they have so many adaptations, and some of them are adaptations that they don't even know about, that they can adapt to things that they haven't been predicted yet.
Sure.
So how they do that, we don't know.
Just like maybe, for example, the citrus that grow under the live oaks in Florida are for some reason more resistant to citrus greening than those that don't, but who knows why.
Yeah, that's right. What I was thinking is of miracle fruit. Like, what does a plant produce? A substance that changes our taste buds. I mean, what does the plant get out of that?
And is that human specific? Does it change it for other animals too?
Probably it works on other mammals, but I don't know. That's a good question.
Right.
Interesting.
Certainly wouldn't work on birds or insects and things like that, but other mammals it might work on.
Yeah.
Maybe it makes them spread the fruit more. I don't know, because it tastes better.
So good.
Sure.
Yeah.
We don't know. There's a lot more we don't know than what we know.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. What's that saying? It's like, all I know is that I don't know.
Yeah, that was Socrates,
Yeah.
the father of modern philosophy.
Oh, Pulasan. It's so good.
I think this is a seedling tree just from fruit that I ate, but I also tried to grow grafted Pulasan, and that was from David Friends in Hilo. He has a small nursery, Birds and Buds Unlimited, and he was grafting Pulasan, and I think some of those that you're talking about also came from him.
Right on.
So Pulasan seems to like heat, is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's more tropical, but the word is ultra tropical, and also it's less adapted than rambutan. Rambutan is actually also very tropical, and the difference is you can take it up to cooler areas and it'll still fruit. You take the Pulasan up to cooler areas, it'll die. It's not adapted. Now, here's another interesting question. Why are some plants more adaptable than others? Some, can be taken to very extreme climates outside their normal range and still do well. And other ones, you just take them, the little tiniest change and then they croak. They only want to grow in a certain place, in a certain soil, certain climate. And then Pulasan is one of those that's kind of fussy, and that's I think why it's not widely planted. It's also very hard to get starts because it's very hard to graft.
Do you?
But it's an awesome fruit. It's right up there. It's what I call the elite class. Yeah, like in the 9 and 10s.
Yeah,
really good
we
fruit.
like it better than rambutan, especially the varieties we've had here. The kind we had in Mexico, though, I think it's a close tie on the best. But these are juicier and they come off the seed easier. Yeah. They can be bigger.
What I like about Pulasan better is it has a more what I call complex taste. Now, rambutan is good, but it's just sweet, and there's not a lot of complexity. This has sweet, a little bit of tartness, a little bit of bitterness, and just a much more widely rounded kind of palette of flavors.
Yeah.
The rambutan is simple. It's just like sweet. Okay, you like sweet fruits, and that's good. This is like tutti frutti kind of taste.
It's got a little more berry flavor.
Berry, yeah. Like a raspberry. Yeah, raspberry, rambutan, lychee, all kind of mixed together.
Right. How important do you think it is for grafted Pulasan to be on bulala rootstock? Do you think that's important here? It's been kind of the reason why I've been grafted more.
I think the guy who started doing that, David Friends, kind of, I believe, gave up on that because the bulala is a lot more vigorous and takes over. Unless you're continuously cutting below the graft line, it'll take over.
Gotcha.
Kind of like when they started doing Adamoya and Cherimoya. Planet Hawaii started doing Adamoya and Cherimoya on the pond apple, which is good because pond apple will grow in like standing water. It doesn't mind a lot of rain. So that's good for that. But then I should say almost all, but a lot of trees that were planted, Cherimoyas and Adamoyas, that they turned into pond apples. And that happened to one of mine, just because I didn't keep right on top of it. You have to be continuously taking out. It's like so much more vigorous. So some people call that incompatible. It's not really incompatible. They take together, but it's just like one is just like too strong for the other.
So it's better to just graft a Pulasan on a Pulasan.
It's better to do Pulasan on Pulasan if you have the rootstock. If not, then you use the other Pulala rootstock. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to find both. So
yeah.
And you've mentioned there's a really large Pulasan cultivar that they grow in Kona, correct? You know what the name of
That's
that
a rambutan. But before I get into that, I want to mention you can air layer these very easy, so you don't need to graft. Graft is hard, real hard with Pulasan. But these air layer real easy. We just put a bunch of air layers.
Awesome.
They take. So does a rambutan. So air layer is the way to go with these, just like lychee. Yep. So yeah, the large one that you're talking about is the giant, so-called giant rambutan. But the fruits that I had, they weren't much bigger than a regular rambutan. That was at the experimental station, Waiakea. They gave me fruits, and they were just pretty much regular size. The tree was very different. It grew like this one, just like straight up and down, unlike a rambutan, which is right behind it. It grew more like the Sacha Mango, just like up and very tall.
Sure.
So the growth pattern was very different. So it's a Nephelium, the same genus, but a different species.
Sure. Do you have the yellow rambutan?
Yeah. This is a yellow rambutan right here.
This is a yellow rambutan.
Yeah.
Have you heard anything about air layering the apical meristem versus air layering a side branch if the resulting tree grows differently or fruits differently?
Yeah, it's better to air lay this straight up, and the ones that are more vertical than the ones that are more horizontal. But the main thing is that they're exposed to sun.
Sure.
If you do ones that are underneath in the shade, they're not going to root.
Okay, good to know. So
a lot of people, they like to climb towards the top of the tree and put the air layers on the top, and those are going to fruit better, easier, faster.
Got you. So go for the apical meristem.
Yeah, if you can. If not, you can do the side ones too.
Okay.
They'll still work, but make sure they're getting a lot of sunlight. If they're in the shade, they're not gonna root up. Because
they need the energy to build those roots. They're not getting the energy from the mother tree anymore.
Right. And I think that, I don't know, this is again conjecture. I think that's maybe how that girdling was invented, because when you air layer a lychee, you see it'll fruit.
Sure.
Yeah, this ringing of the bark makes it fruit.
Sure.
But don't let it fruit. If you're air layering stuff, cut the fruits out, because that's going to weaken your air layer. Yeah.
And you've mentioned a tip that I found helpful. If you cut flowers off that you don't want, it'll just keep flowering and drain more energy versus let the flower pollinate first, correct?
Right. That's specifically for mango.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true in other fruits. Probably not. The mango, if you just take the flowers off when they're small and they don't have any fruit forming yet, it'll just keep fruiting and fruiting, and you're kind of wasting your energy. So let it fruit, but only let it make like a pea-sized fruit.
Sure.
And then you cut it.
I think avocados will do the same thing. A grafted avocado will fruit itself to death in a pot left too long.
I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's only for small plants. You don't want them to fruit when they're real tiny.
Sure.
Because the fruit takes a lot of energy out of the tree.
So especially like a grafted or air layered tree that might start fruiting in the pot, don't let that fruit mature.
Yeah, yeah. You want the plant to put all its energy into making roots and leaves when it's tiny.
Sure.
And then it won't be as stressed, and it'll be a healthier individual. It's like you can compare it to letting a 12 or 13-year-old teenager have a baby. That's like not only morally wrong, but it makes like a huge stress on their body for the rest of their lives. They're going to be weakened.
Sure.
Same thing with fruit trees. Sure. There's a lot of comparisons here between plants and animals that I like to use, because people tend to understand the plant the animal examples, and especially the human examples better. Right. So I always try to compare with some human thing. Then they get it in their head. I don't know. It's like, don't leave the plants inside your car with all your windows rolled up. I say, would you leave your baby in a car like that? Well, the plants are going to croak also, you know?
Sure. And one thing you've said is a baby needs the most nutrition and an adult needs the least. So you should, like with a mangosteen or durian, give it the most nutrition at the beginning, correct?
Right. That's an example I like to use too. When you have a baby, you want to baby it, especially when they're a baby, when they're little. When they're little, they're very delicate. They need a lot of food. They need a lot of water. You don't want them falling down all the time. So you take extra care as a parent. The smaller, the more extra care. Once they're a teenager, it's like, you're still taking care of them, but hey, they can be on their own. You don't have to be watching them like a hawk all the time. So plants, when they're little, you have to be a lot more careful with them. feed them more regularly, and make sure they don't get damaged when they're little, especially delicate plants like mangosteen. They get sunburn when they're little. It's going to take them forever to recover. Those are the ones that take 25, 30 years to fruit.
Sure.
Right.
If you take very good care of them when they're little, they might fruit in 5 or 6.
Sure.
You know?
Well,
And they also don't like full sun.
Yeah, when they're little, they don't like full sun. Just like
Even
babies. You don't want to leave the baby in full sun. Same thing
Even
with
as
babies.
a mature plant, mangosteen photosynthesis goes down in efficiency at full sunlight.
Alright, that's it for part 2. Like and subscribe to make sure you catch part 3. Heads up, we have like 4 hours of this Oscar video to condense down, so the next videos will probably be a little bit longer, and we're probably gonna have another 4 parts or so to this series. Honestly, there's so many good bits of advice that it feels like a shame not to release them, so we'll probably do some YouTube shorts and TikTok material with some of the outtakes, so keep an eye out for that. It seems like a waste to leave out good information just because it doesn't flow right. As always, if you're on Big Island, you can come see us at Maku'u Market on Sundays. We have a big selection of rare and common fruit trees for good, affordable prices, and some of which come from Oscars, so come check us out and say hi. Aloha, thanks for watching!